Right, we're back with another training session. Starting off today with some seated horizontal jump into a vertical jump over the hurdle. So the goal is seated broad jump, land immediately over the hurdle. We're going to play around with hurdle height, and we're going to also play around with the distance from the bench. I can't remember exactly what I got last time I did these. I think it was 4 meters from bench to hurdle, and then I can't remember the exact height of the hurdle, but we can see if we can push it close to a meter today. After that, we've got some snatch. Then we've got some squat jumps, high bar squat jumps, so nice and heavy. Probably go 120 kilos on those again today. Probably won't push that any heavier this week because we have got some heavy squats on Friday. After the squat jumps, then we've got some Zercher squats. After the Zercher squats, I think we have some hamstring isolation work, and then I might finish with a little bit of arms, maybe some shoulders. So we're going to start off with a couple of warm-up jumps, so roughly 3 meters from bench to the hurdle, and then the hurdle is set at 0.6 meters. So just a couple of warm-ups and then we'll get into it. So in terms of warm-ups for your jumps, what will work most of the time is just a regressed version of the jump you're going to do for your working sets. So for me, it's just reduce distance and reduce height of the hurdle. And then as we warm up, we gradually build up into our working sets. This is actually one of my favorite jump variations. I like seated jumps. I like that rock back and the explosive power you can generate from that rock back when you get into those feet. I like the idea of having to gauge your distance from the bench to the hurdle so you can actually get a decent amount of height on that jump without clipping the heels off the hurdle. So it takes a little bit of brain power, it takes a little bit of skill, it takes a lot of practice to be able to generate max force from the horizontal jump, land, and then push that force into a vertical jump while maintaining some pretty good coordination, maintaining your balance, getting high enough, and then landing in a good way too. So there's more to it than you would think when you're looking at it. It's a kind of jump that doesn't look too difficult, but when you try it, it takes a little bit of cognitive energy to figure out your distances and try and land, especially when you're trying to make that first jump max effort, land at a decent distance, and then again into a max effort vertical jump. Adding a constraint or variable like the hurdle makes it that little bit more difficult. If you're ever wondering how to get or incorporate jumps like this into your training to keep your athleticism high, especially as we get older, firstly, you can just download my build program. Link is in the description. It has jumps in there. You can also manipulate the jumps to suit whatever level you're at as well. Has all your reps, sets, and a lot of different variations. The other way is just real simple. Jumps usually suit well on your lower body day. So the way I program is my high speed stuff gradually builds into my strength work, and you'll see it throughout this session. We'll go very fast with the jumps, very fast with the snatch, slightly slower, but still fast with our squat jumps. And then our Zercher squats will be, again, that little bit slower than our squat jumps. So it's a speed into strength session is the way I program a lot of my S&C sessions. So you can do the exact same thing. Throw your jumps in the day you have your squats. And then you can use your jumps as a warm-up to potentiate into your squats. And you'll find that your squats often feel an awful lot better if you've got some max effort jumps put in. Just makes your ankles, knees, and hips nice and warm without having to add that extra load, but it primes the system for those max effort outputs. In the build program, or the build hybrid program, they are programmed for reps and sets. So you might have 4 sets of 3. So it'll give you 12 total max effort jumps, excluding your warm-ups. Another way I really like to program as well, and this is actually the way I'm programmed for this session, is time periods. I'll set a timer and typically do my jumps for 8 to 12 or 8 to 15 minutes. I find with the timer, it stops you from spilling over too much and making your jump session take that little bit too long, even though I typically go longer than the timer anyway. What it's also good for is if you're programmed for, say, 4 sets of 3, what can often happen, especially if our warm-up wasn't sufficient enough, is that people can often only start to feel very warm or primed up, or their jumps are really snappy when they're in those last 2 sets. What the jumps do is, because you know you're on a time frame, you kind of squeeze some of the early you kind of squeeze some of the warm-ups in a little bit quicker and you get primed a little bit faster, and it just gives you that heightened sense that we need to get through this quickly, but also we have time to rest too. So the time just feels like, for me, you get more jumps while primed versus straight sets and reps. But what I would say is straight sets and reps are probably the best way to get into it if you're just beginning, because it tightens it up just that little bit more, and it also prevents you from getting too many ground contacts, which is a very underrated thing when you're getting into your plyometrics or into your jumps. Your body can only sustain so many ground contacts per session. It depends on the level of the athlete or of the individual. So I can sustain quite a high amount of ground contacts, but if they're max effort, you're going to feel that in your TA, your tibialis anterior, right here into your ankles, maybe into your hips and knees, especially early on if you're taking a lot of heavy ground contacts. It mightn't seem like much, but you're producing quite a lot of force when you're going max effort, and when you're doing continuous jumps and you're attacking that floor, you're actually putting a lot of force through the ankle, knee, and hip, and even the lower back. So timed sessions as you get a little bit more advanced, and reps and sets in the beginning, because it just is the easiest way to set a target amount of reps that you want to hit per session. How many reps should that be? Depends on the individual, but anywhere between 10 and 25 max effort attempts is pretty good. Next jump is going to be the first one at 4 meters from toes to hurdle, and then hurdle height is set at 0.8 of a meter. Not bad, but I'm pretty sure we can get more height on our broad jump and then just be a little cleaner into that vertical. Right, time to start dropping some nukes. They're feeling all right. They've been better. They're not feeling too poppy, but I'm just a little bit fatigued, but it's all good. We're getting what we need to get. I'm gonna flip to vertical and get a couple for the gram.